And then I made a mistake.
The National, he's got 250 yards to run.
It was a terrible error which I've lived with all my life.
Crisp is getting very tired, and Red Rum is pounding after him, and at the line, Red Rum has just snatched it from Crisp, and Red Rum is the winner.
Crisp was an amazing horse because, not just because he could gallop fast, he was so strong he could run faster than others most of the time, but it was his jumping. Aintree especially played to his strengths. Crisp was the champion Australian horse and was being weighted so highly to give others a chance that his owner thought, this is not fair. So he sent him over here, had one run in America on the way over, and he arrived with us in November, December, I think. So anyway, we totter off to Wincanton, and he made all the running. I never heard or saw another horse, and he won very, very easily. So it wasn't a surprise, but it did just show the public what they called him the Black Kangaroo. You know what he was all about. He was a good horse. Waking up in the morning took no bother at all because I didn't sleep very well. It is a nervy thing. If you're nervous and scared, don't even go to the races. You've got to be nervous on a good point. So the plan was, Fred Winter, the trainer, and I talked it over in every way that we could do. It would tell you, settle the horse behind. But in reality, he would see a fence, he'd push horses out of the way, he would jump into trouble. And if you don't get round, you don't win. Well, anyway, off we set, decided to make the running, and all my rides I went down the inside rail where the brave men go. So Crisp went down there, and when he jumped the third, which is a horrible fence because you've still got a lot of horses with you, it's got a wide open ditch in front of you, which is fairly deep, and then a 4'6", no, it's 5'3" fence high. So a horse has really got to stretch to get over it. You'd have thought it was a hurdle. Chris went in there, quicken, ping, gallop. It was fast. And I just thought then, what a race I'm going to have. Now, I'd had 5 previous rides in the race, second another time, but you're not used to going in to the second circuit with nothing near you. I mean, he must have been 20 lengths in front, and I could hear Michael O'Hare, who was a renowned hurling and racing commentator. And I could hear him quite clearly because there was no other race noise, you see. And so I'm going down to Beecher's, and I heard, and Crisp and Dick Pitman at 25 lengths clear of the pack. Red Rum's coming out, but Fletcher's kicking Red Rum. I thought, that'll do me. Keep saving a bit, save some stamina. If your stamina is in doubt, keep saving. Let their lungs fill up with air, you know. I mean, if you're pushing, scrubbing, they never get a chance to fill up. So you're all the time trying to fill up those great big lungs with air. But as I said, again, when you jump the canal turn, made a lot of ground because I was on my own, and then you see the grandstand. 3/4 of a mile, and the first thing comes into your head, 3/4 of a mile is a long way. But I still couldn't hear another horse. And then he's starting to get tired in my hands, and I'm holding him together. We jumped the last, and I could hear now a challenger, but I couldn't hear I didn't care what it was, but I could hear a challenger, happened to be Red Rum. And the ground was fast in those days, so you could hear hoofbeat. And then I made a mistake, a boyish mistake, and I was a man, I was very experienced, and I made a boyish mistake. I thought I'll just give him a real tap behind the saddle to wake him up. But I stupidly did not pull it through and give him one on the left side, because after the last you have to go right to get round the elbow. But worse than that, I shouldn't have tapped him even, because he was such a big, strong horse. He was so tired, I should have kept hold of him, kept hold of his face, and from my body urged him on. It was a terrible error which I've lived with all my life.
For Crisp, and Red Rum still closing on him, and Crisp is getting very tired, and Red Rum is pounding after him.
Obviously I was devastated, but only for a minute. While I'm pulling up, I thought, You've just had the ride that money cannot buy. I had earned that right. He was my ride. Sadly for the owner, trainer and the jockey and for the lad, I mean, it was sad, but I did it and it was a mistake and I'm still living with it. It's a hard game. You've got to enjoy the highs and take the lows and learn from them. Having learned from that, I wouldn't have done anything different because of that very premise. If we'd have held him up behind 39 other horses, he would not have got to Beecher's Brook. Simple as that. It was an amazing race because we lowered the course record, which had stood for about 40 years, by 14 seconds. It was incredible. And to walk back through the crowds, you don't do that these days. They've changed the walk in. We used to go up round by the stables and walk back, and they would be 50 deep, 2 big police horses, and people wanted to touch him, and it was just a magical thing. But to jump 30 fences at speed without making a mistake, well, money couldn't buy it. And the crowds, I mean, they loved Chris, they loved Red Rum, and more so later when he became 5 times runner and it wins 3, second twice. I mean, he probably saved the National. Lots of people do say he's the best horse that didn't win a Grand National. And we have to remember that the third horse, 25 lengths behind us, Lescargo, had won 2 Gold Cups and then wins a Grand National. So yes, if you think that I was giving £25 to Red Rum and was beaten half a length, on level weights I should have won by 20 lengths. But it wasn't. It is a handicap, and that's what makes it good. It gives every horse an equal chance, theoretically. So no, I would die thinking that he was the best Grand National horse. I was asked to do his obituary, and I wrote at the end that he was buried at Scott's Corner, at the entrance to John Trotter's estate. He had him as a hunter for 8 years. And I wrote, forevermore, they had planted a pink flowering cherry tree over Crisp's grave, and forevermore on Grand National Week, there will be pink tears floating down onto the grave. My message to Crisp today would be, I am so sorry that John Frankham wasn't a bit older, because had he been, he would have ridden the horse, not me, and you would have won the National.